Welcome to Allowed and Lifted Quick Lift, where we take the biggest takeaways from the full conversation and turn them into something practical. And the episode with Sharice Johnson is such an important one because we spend a lot of time on this podcast talking about women in leadership, confidence, voice, community, mentorship, owning your seat at the table. But this conversation was a reminder that these things do not suddenly become important when women enter the workplace. They start much earlier. They start when girls are still figuring it out. Do people listen when I speak? Am I allowed to take up space? Can I try and not get it perfect? And Sharice's work lives right in that space. She has spent years helping young people, especially girls, build leadership skills, character, confidence, and purpose through mentorship, role play, exposure, and community. And what I love most about her perspective is that it was not fluffy. It was practical, patient, and very intentional. So here are 5 takeaways from this conversation and 1 action item for each. Number 1, girls learn from what we model before they believe what we say. One of the things Sharice talked about is how she shows up in a room with young people. She leads with presence. She speaks clearly. She gets their attention. That combination matters because we can tell girls all day long to be confident, speak up, and believe in themselves, but they're also watching us. They're watching how we walk into rooms, how we introduce ourselves, and how we handle pressure. Also, let's remember, they also see how we talk about ourselves when we think that no one is really paying attention. And let's be honest, they're always paying attention. Girls don't just need lectures about confidence. They need to see women living it in real time. Not perfectly, not always loudly, not even performatively, but with groundness, with a sense of, I'm allowed to be here. That kind of modeling gives girls a picture that they can borrow until they can build their own. Action item, pick one moment this week where a girl in your life can see you model grounded leadership. Introduce yourself clearly, speak up in a room, set a boundary without over-explaining. Let her see what it looks like to take up space without making it weird. Because sometimes the lesson is not what we say, it's in what they see us do. Number 2, leadership has to be practiced before it feels natural. Sharice talked about using role play and real life practice with students, and I love this because it's such a good reminder. Leadership is not built through one magical moment. It's built through reps. Kids need chances to practice speaking, practice answering questions, introducing themselves, making decisions, leading peers, practice recovering when something feels awkward. And that matters because we often expect young people to suddenly know how to show up with maturity, presence, and communication skills. But where exactly were they supposed to learn that? Leadership does not become natural because someone tells you to be a leader. Step up. It becomes natural because you've been given opportunities to try. And yes, sometimes it's clunky and feels uncomfortable. They may mumble or freeze or rush through it or probably look at the floor, and that's okay. It's just practice. The goal is not perfection. Action item, give a girl in your life one small leadership rep this week. Have her order for herself. Ask her to introduce herself to someone new. Lead a hard conversation. Ask for her opinion and wait for a full answer. Small moments count because every time she practices using her voice, she learns that her voice works. Number 3, potential is not always obvious at first. One of the most powerful stories Sharice shared was about a student who completely froze during an interview as a freshman. She could barely answer the questions. And it would have been easy to assume she wasn't ready and maybe not leadership material or not the right fit. But Sharice saw something more. She followed up. She invited her into a leadership program and she gave her other opportunities. And over time, the same student became a senior, speaking in front of hundreds of people and also mentoring young girls. Love that story. Because potential does not always walk around into the room polished. Sometimes it's quiet or nervous, and sometimes it's buried under fear, anxiety, lack of exposure, or just one bad moment. And if we judge too quickly, we miss it. This is true with girls, employees, and emerging leaders. Sometimes people need someone to see what is possible before they can see it themselves. Action item, look for quiet potential this week. Not the loudest person or not the most polished and not the one already raising their hand. Pay attention to the girl who is thoughtful, observant, kind, but maybe hesitant. Then say something specific like, I notice how carefully you thought about that. You have a calm way of leading. Or maybe you may not see it yet, but I see leadership in you. The way you helped her mattered. Do not praise the outcome. Name the strength. This is how people start to recognize it in themselves. Number 4, exposure expands what girls believe is possible. Sharice talked about the idea that every 15-year-old should have at least one spark, something that brings them joy, fuels them, and helps them imagine a bigger future. And one of the ways girls find their spark is through exposure. Because how can a girl dream about something she's never seen? How can she picture herself in a room she's never been invited to? How can she imagine a career, a calling, a leadership path, or a version of success that no one's ever showed her? This is where adults have more influence than we realize, and exposure does not have to be complicated. It can be inviting her to an event, introducing her to someone in your network, letting her shadow you, having a real conversation about work or leadership, money, service. Sometimes the door we open feels small to us, but huge to her. Action item, create one exposure opportunity this month. Invite a girl to attend something with you. Introduce her to a woman doing interesting work or let her ask questions about your career. Bring her behind the scenes. The point is not to map out her whole future. The point is just to widen her view. And lastly, mentorship is consistency, not a title. Sharice used the phrase pour into them, and I love that. Because mentorship is not just a formal program. It's not just giving advice once and checking a box, and it's definitely not pretending that we have all the answers. Mentorship is a consistent investment. Noticing, encouraging, following up, asking better questions, challenging someone when they're playing small, helping them see a future version of themselves. Sharice shared a story about her own mentor looking at her LinkedIn profile and basically saying, this does not fully reflect who you are. And that's a perfect example of good mentorship. It helps you see what you cannot see. And young girls need that too. They need adults who are willing to stay engaged past the inspirational moments, because one pep talk, it's nice, but consistent support, that's what actually shapes people. Action item, choose one younger person that you can be more intentional with. Send the text. Ask how things are going. Check in after a big event. Ask what's feeling hard. Don't overcomplicate it. Mentorship does not have to start with a formal label. It can start with being someone who keeps showing up. Sharice's episode is such a strong reminder that leadership development does not start when someone gets their first job title. It starts much earlier, when a girl gives space to speak, when someone notices her strength, when she gets a chance to practice something new. And that is what makes this conversation so relevant to all of us. Whether you're a mom, aunt, mentor, manager, coach, teacher, or just someone with younger girls in your orbit, you have more influence than you think. So if this episode spoke to you, go back and listen to the full conversation with Sharice. And this week, don't just talk about supporting the next generation. Give them a rep, open a door, name what you see, and keep showing up. Until next time, stay loud and keep lifting the girls who are still learning how powerful their voice can be.